If you're a founder doing any of these 6 things, you're not leading, you're leaking. Watch the list, see how many you're doing. Now look, the advice industry has spent the last 20 years teaching founders that leadership is about presence. It's about communication, it's about vision and inspiration. Show up, communicate often, hold the vision, inspire the team. None of that's wrong exactly, but all of it's incomplete in the same specific way. It confuses behaviours that look like leadership with behaviours that actually produce leverage. And leverage is what we're actually selling when we sell leadership. Leverage is the delta between what one person can produce alone and what the organisation around that person can produce together. If your behaviours produce that delta, you're leading. If they don't, no amount of presence or communication or vision changes the underlying economic reality. And that's the recurring thread for this video. Looking like leadership and producing leverage are 2 very different things, and most of the behaviours founders are taught to value confuse the 2. Quick context before I really get into it. By execution leakage, I mean the structural gap between what your business should produce and what it actually does, as defined by specific, identifiable behavioural leakage vectors that demonstrate where leadership squanders leverage. If you want the full execution economics model in 7 minutes, my What is Execution Economics video is pinned to this channel, and I've also attached the link in the description. Anyway, onto today's video. Here are 6 behaviors that I see week after week inside founder-led businesses between $3 and $50 million in revenue. Each one, it looks like leadership. Each one is, in fact, leakage. And each one has a specific structural fix. So, behavior 1, saying yes to everything important. And this is the founder whose calendar is full of important meetings, whose strategy doc has 12 priorities, whose team can't tell you what the top 3 are because there are no top 3. Everything's critical, everything's strategic, everything's mission aligned. And it looks like decisive leadership. It looks like the founder who can hold complexity, but in fact, it's priority diffusion. And that is to say, the structural failure to subtract. And the team faced with 12 top priorities distributes their finite attention evenly across all of them, which means every initiative gets a fraction of the focus it would need to land. So here's the question to ask yourself. If I asked 5 of my best operators independently what the top 3 priorities are this quarter, would they give me the same answer? If yes, you're clear. If no, you're diffused. So it's looking like leadership here that isn't the same as really producing leverage. Behavior 2, identifying the priority and never protecting it. This is the founder who knows exactly what the highest leverage move is for the quarter. They've named it, they've discussed it, they could tell you in 1 sentence what it is, but it never makes it onto the calendar as a defended block, so it competes with reactive work and loses week after week. It looks like clarity. In fact, it's signal action dilution, a protection failure, not a communication failure. The signal was right, the calendar didn't defend it. The question to ask, of my top 3 priorities this quarter, how many of them have specific protected calendar time defending them this week? If the answer is fewer than all 3, that's the leakage. Knowing the priority isn't the same as protecting the priority. The principle, if it isn't scheduled, it isn't real. Okay, on to the next one. Behavior number 3, holding decisions for more data. This is the founder who says, let me think about this. Who says, let's revisit this next week. Whose decisions that should take an hour take a week. Whose decisions that should take a week take a month. Whose decisions that should take a month never even get made at all. And it looks like deliberate, careful leadership. But in fact, it's decision velocity leakage. It's the most underrated capital efficiency lever in a founder-led business because revenue velocity is governed by decision velocity. Every week of delay on a reversible decision is a week of compounded revenue, margin, or operational improvement that never accrues. The question to ask, what decision am I currently holding that, if I made them in the next 24 hours, would unblock more than 3 people? Make those decisions today. Now, behavior number 4, delegating tasks instead of altitudes. This is the founder who says, can you handle this for me, please? Who hands over the individual tasks one at a time while keeping all the surrounding decisions. Whose senior hires bring every adjacent question back to the founder for sign-off. Who can't understand why the team feels micromanaged when the founder feels like they're giving away so much. It looks like trust-based delegation. In fact, it's delegation-altitude leakage. Tasks are just simply things to do, but altitudes are levels of decision authority. When you delegate tasks, you keep the altitude, and you remain the bottleneck. When you delegate altitudes, the team member owns the outcome and operates inside the altitude without coming back. And in practice, that means handing over the desired outcome, briefing on timelines, being crystal clear on the few specific stages where founder sign-off is required, and getting out of the middle. The question to ask is, of the things on my plate this week, what altitude am I working at? And what altitude should I be working at? If you're operating 2 altitudes too low, that's the leakage. It looks like generosity, but it's killing leverage and it's producing drag. Okay, behavior number 5, absorbing every team member's emotional spike. This is the founder who's the receptacle, whose team comes to them with anxieties and tensions and conflicts and market wobbles, who absorbs all of it and holds those signals as if it were their own, and who ends every week without having done anything physically or intellectually difficult. It looks like empathic leadership, but in fact, it's emotional load leakage. The team learns, often without realizing it, that the founder is the receptacle, so they just keep bringing more. The founder gets saturated. Cognitive bandwidth that should go into strategic decisions goes into emotional regulation. And the best operators eventually leave because they inherit the saturation. Questions to ask. What emotional load am I carrying this week that should sit with someone else? Now it looks like empathy, but again, produces cognitive saturation. Okay, behavior number 6, the final one. Always in operational mode and never strategic. This is the founder who says, I'll think strategically when things calm down, who's always one firefight away from thinking, who hasn't had 2 uninterrupted hours of strategic time in the last 6 weeks. Now, it looks like hard-working leadership. In fact, it's cognitive bandwidth drain. Strategic capacity isn't a luxury. It's a discipline, and it's essential, especially as a founder. If you let it become reactive, it never recovers. The business grows reactively rather than directionally. Pricing decisions go undone. Partnership opportunities get ignored. Capital reallocation never happens. The strategy you operate against is the one you set 18 months ago in a market that's moved on. Now, the questions to ask. When was the last time I worked on the business for 2 uninterrupted hours with no operational interruption? If you can't remember, that's the leakage. And it looks like a hard work ethic, but produces strategic drift. So, 6 behaviors. Each one looks like leadership. Each one is, in fact, a specific failure mode with a specific structural fix. None of them are character flaws. None of them are willpower problems. They're structural patterns, and they are incredibly fixable. Now, look, if you've taken the Execution Severity Index diagnostic, that's the 12 questions, that takes roughly 8 minutes. I've attached a link in the description. Then your dominant vector tells you which of these 6 is the heaviest in your specific business. Without that diagnosis, every leadership intervention you deploy is a coin flip. With the diagnosis, the deployment becomes targeted and the leverage compounds. So if, when you review your results, you recognize yourself in 2 or more of these behaviors, you're not alone. The diagnostic puts a number on how much this is showing up in your specific business. It tells you which of the 6 is your dominant pattern, what compression band you're in, and what the actual intervention should be. Again, if you haven't taken the diagnostic, the link is in the description. It's 8 minutes, as I said, 12 questions. Go and take it. Give you a lot to work with. And if you want the full model context, the What is Execution Economics video is pinned to my channel and it's in the description too. Thanks for watching.